All right, welcome back to the Find Your Edge podcast. I am your host, Coach Chris Newport, and today I have Hilary Topper here, an acclaimed author, triathlete. I cannot wait to get into this conversation. So, welcome to the show, Hilary.
Thank you so much, Chris, for having me.
Yes, so you just came out with a new book. So, let's brag on it. First of all, like, hold it up, show it off, because this thing, look at that guy. S. So
Like a
unlocking the
Bible.
right, yes, unlocking the triathlon. But honestly, so she sent me the PDF version. It's a really easy read. It might look intimidating by the size of it. 353 pages, I think, officially. Yeah, which is awesome. But I'm definitely sending this to all of my friends who are thinking about triathlon. So, and this is your fourth book, right?
Yeah, this is my fourth book. My first two were focused on social media. I had a public relations firm for about 30 years. That's kind of how it all like transpired. Do you want me to just get like right
Oh,
into
oh,
it?
yes. So, yes, take it away.
So I had a public relations firm for over 30 years, and I guess about maybe 10 years ago, I started feeling like I was working my butt off to feed my staff, to feed my family, to feed my feed my parents at the time, they were alive. And it was just too much. Like I couldn't I got to the point where I was like, you know what? Enough is enough. The clients are calling, blah blah blah, they want this, it's never not nothing is ever good enough, right? Like when you're working in the public relations field. You get them in the New York Times and then they're like, "Oh, what did you do for me lately?" That's not good enough. I want to be on Good Morning America or whatever, right? So anyway, so at that point I said, "You know what? I'm getting heavy. I gained a lot of weight. Decided to join a gym for the first time in my life. And I joined a gym, a New York sports club. And I hired a personal trainer, and the trainer said to me, "Go warm up on the treadmill." Well, little did he know that I never was in a gym before, so I didn't know how to use the treadmill. So I
Yikes.
asked this woman next to me who's running, and she's like sweating, dripping sweat, and she says to me, I said to her, "Could you help me?" And she stopped what she was doing. She did help me, which was really super nice. I mean, now I would never, but at the time I had no idea what the protocol was, what was right, what was wrong, anyway. So I started, that was really my first time on a treadmill, and I started to slowly run a little bit on the treadmill, and eventually I decided to take it outside. And in the meantime, I meet this woman from a woman's group, and she says to me, we're all in like the PTA and all this. And she said to me, "Oh, you're a runner? Oh, let's run together." She had just run the New York City Marathon. And I was like, "I don't know. I don't think you're going to want to run with me. I'm a beginner. I don't even know what I'm doing." She's like, "Don't worry. We'll be fine." So we start running together on the Long Beach Boardwalk. It's about a 2.1 mile in each direction, so it's like 4.2. And we start to do that once a week. And I guess about a month or two into this, she says to me, "Let's go run a half marathon." And I said, "A half marathon? I can't even run 4 miles, I'm dying over here." So anyway, um, so we did our first 5K together, our 10K together, and then we eventually did the half marathon. But it wasn't until I guess we were doing all of these racecations together, me and this woman. And she said to me at some point during the Brooklyn half marathon, "I don't want to do this anymore. I'm done with running events. This is too long. It's too much. I don't want to do it." So I said to her, I had just been to Fort Myers, Sanibel. I was one of the original Google Glass Explorers. It was like a augmented reality, kind of like the meta glasses that they have today, but it was Google. And anyway, so I go to Fort Myers, Sanibel, and the tourism woman says to me, "Oh, you've got to try this triathlon. You're a runner. Oh, you would love this." So I tell my friends, oh, there's a triathlon in Captiva and let's do it. It should be really fun. Little did I know I had to learn how to swim and ride a bike, and I barely knew how to run. So it was all a learning curve for me. I'm the type of person that throughout my whole entire life, I never did anything athletic until the last, 10, 12 years. That was it. Like nothing. So this was completely new. And I started buying all these books. This is what led me to this. I started buying all these books on triathlon and how to do a triathlon and, zones and what it all means and, how to buy a bike and all. And I went out and I bought all these books and I'm reading them and I have absolutely no clue what they mean. It's just totally over my head. And I'm saying to myself, there's got to be a book out there that's easy to understand, that anybody could understand. And that's what led me to this book.
That's amazing. What a phenomenal journey. And I love that you said that, I'm sort of backing up a little bit. You didn't have a history in sport. You literally didn't know how to operate a treadmill. And then suddenly it's almost like this friend came along and identified you as a runner. And then it was like, whoa. And then here you are, like becoming a runner. And then you sort of get tagged into this triathlete. Now you're going to do a triathlon. So, like, where do you feel like this whole identity or perhaps lack thereof played into this journey?
Well, at first, when I started to do this, you have that, I forget what it's called, like where you do something, but you're like an imposter, like you really, you don't belong here, right? But when I did my first triathlon in Captiva, I actually felt like I did belong. Like I loved it so much. It was like, for me, it was just the best experience. And then I like signed up for another triathlon right away. That's how much I loved it. And then that first year, like right after that first year, I signed up for so many back to back to back to back. 'Cause I just couldn't get enough of it. What I loved most was that everybody's welcome, you know, and it doesn't matter how old you are. I started triathlons at 53. I'm 64 now. I mean, it's not like, and I'm still doing them. I just met an 85-year-old woman at an Alpha Win triathlon in Hudson Valley. She was incredible. She just was incredible. And it just motivated me thinking, wow, if she could do this, I could do this too. And that's kind of what my goal here is. If I could do this, you could do this. Anybody could do this. I mean, I was somebody, my first book, From Couch Potato to Endurance Athlete, it's the subtitle is Non-Athletic Triathlete, right? I never thought I was athletic. That wasn't me. But there's something about this lifestyle that just, grabbed me
It
and pulled
resonated.
me.
Yeah, that's so
Yeah.
cool. And what I'm gleaning from this is that while I think a lot of people can be intimidated by multisport or endurance sports in general, and sort of going back to that identity piece, is that a lot of it is a story that we're telling ourselves. Like, oh, triathlon is not welcoming. Like, no, make yourself fit. Like, if it brings you joy, if it brings you a challenge, if it's something different to do something for your health, do it.
Absolutely. I was watching the Jones Beach Ironman a couple of weeks back, and I was just like, I was with my running group. We go out every Sunday, and I was talking to them, and I said, look at this. You see, everybody has a different body shape, age, color, anything. Like everything is accepted in this sport, and that's one of the reasons why I love it so much. Because you could be an 85-year-old woman. You could be a 300 pounds man, I mean, it doesn't matter. As long as you're out there and having fun, everybody accepts each other. It's not like, oh, you don't belong here.
Mhm. Yes. Which, when you first held up the book, so she's going to hold it up again. There's a bookmarked page because I wanted her to read a certain quote that I loved out of it, which is exactly what you're talking about. So, do you mind?
So yeah, so after each chapter, I have these quick tips, and in the chapter where I talk about every shape, every size, embracing diversity in triathlon, I say embrace who you are. No matter if you're overweight or underweight, you belong here. They're all body types in triathlon. Don't be ashamed or embarrassed. We are one big family, and I really feel like that's true.
Yeah. That just like gave me the warm fuzzies.
I love it, because you don't have to be the fastest and the greatest. It's just okay to be out there. And even if you come in last place, like, so what? Other people are sitting on the couch.
Hmm. Yeah. I mean, it's no small feat to do a triathlon. I
Mhm.
think there needs to be a level of respect there, but to your point, it doesn't matter what size or shape you are or how old you are. You just have to have the willingness to try, right? And just get out there. Okay, so how long have you been, how long has it officially been? We're at the end of the season. How long has it officially been since you've been doing triathlons?
So it's just about almost 12 years. Yeah. I got so into it. Like you, I became certified, in USA Triathlon and USMS swim coach and RRCA run coach and Wowza open water coach. I just like keep getting these certifications because I love it so much. And it's just something that I want to know as much as I can. And there's always something new.
Yes, that's also what I love about it. The challenge of how many different variables there are and how our physiology is all just so unique and how one thing may work for some people doesn't necessarily work for the others. So it's like the endless problem solving. That's what I
Exactly.
love about it.
Yeah.
So, but it can all be fun.
It can all be fun. And it's also, to me, it's life, because things go wrong in life, right? Like that I think I talked about that in this book as well. I think I talked about it, I know, in my From Couch Potato book, how things happen, spontaneous. I mean, just things just happen, and you have no control over it, and you have to accept that because sometimes you don't have control. So focus on what you can control. Like that's what I really want people to take away from this.
Which, speaking of things you can't control, I think you had a somewhat recent, or you definitely got injured at some point. Was this recent or not recent?
I've had so many injuries through the
Yes. So talk about that, because do we all have to like be in perfect health to do multi-sport or just endurance sports in
Oh my
general to
goodness,
have the
no.
lifestyle, right?
I know people who had heart issues. I mean, oh gosh, I have a friend who actually had a heart attack on an Ironman course. Can you imagine this? And he just kept going and completed the course. And then after he found out he had a heart attack, I mean, I think maybe that's not the smartest thing. I think, if you have to listen to your body and, like those professionals at Kona, I forget their names, but there were two women professionals at Kona
Yeah,
who
Taylor
actually,
Nib,
yeah,
to
who
just
just,
what? Yeah,
yeah, but they knew their body. They
yeah.
knew that it was time to stop. And
And
they
I think there is a level of knowing where your why is. So why are you doing this? And what does it mean to either stop or not stop? Right? Like what's the level of maybe we call it sacrifice? I don't know, of when you listen to your body enough to say this is not worth it for me to finish. And that so a DNF is not a failure in
No,
life.
it's not a failure. It was like I thought it was when I first started. Oh, she got a DNF. Oh, I mean, really, she got out there and if you can get out there for the start line, you won. Like every single piece of the race, you won. And if you finish the race, wow, more power to you. Like,
And it's a testament to the fact that the training is the journey. Like the whole, just deciding that you're going to do a triathlon can be the start of the journey. Like, okay, I am willing to learn the things about what the heck is a derailleur. And I'm willing to learn, yeah, be vulnerable and put on a bathing suit that maybe I haven't put on in 20 years and wear this like really weird cap and goggles that makes me look like a bug and being like, you know what? I am okay with it. And here I am. I'm just gonna try. Like, let's just do it.
absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah. So
Yeah.
cool. What were some of your favorite parts of writing the book and maybe not so favorite parts of writing the book?
I think that my favorite part was thinking about what would make it easy for people to read and understand, right? Like that was, and I think that was my favorite part because I'm like I'm like you, like I like to help people, right? So, and I want people to just give it a try. I mean, you may love it, you may not, but if you love it, great. It's just something, it's a great cross-training activity, to run, especially for runners, because a lot of runners get into triathlon. And there was one woman in the book who I interviewed, Jody Robertson. She's a professional triathlete. And she said that she was in the Olympic trials and she was doing like almost, I don't know, she said something crazy like 120 or 140 miles a week of running. And she was getting injured all the time. And then when she started doing triathlon, she cut it down to like 70 miles. I mean, still 70 miles a week is a lot of miles, but I mean, and she said she was getting injured less, which I totally believe. I mean, there's something about swimming. Now, I was again not a swimmer. I wasn't a runner, I wasn't a cyclist, but I think swimming for most is the hardest part. For me, for some crazy reason, I embraced it and I would say that that's the thing that I love most about the sport is swimming. I actually just wrote in yet another book. It's at the publisher now, and it's specifically for people to help them get in the open water and feel comfortable and all of that. But you know, it just I don't know. I lost my train of thought.
I mean, it's a testament to the fact that we just like love talking about the sport and want people to get inspired and into it. So I totally get that. Okay, so now what's the hard part about either writing a book in general or specifically writing about this topic?
I think writing in general, or even writing about this topic, it doesn't really make a difference, but the editing process, and just keep going over and over and over each and every paragraph and sentence, and
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
it's a lot. And then my first book, I still had my firm, my PR firm, so I had an employee who was helping me, with the publicity and with, marketing and stuff like that. Now I'm like all by myself and I have to do this alone, and it's like, oh my God, there's so much to do, and not enough time. And I'm going to be traveling around, to different locations. My first endurance book, From Couch Potato, I was, every month I was somewhere else. I was like around the country. I went, I guess, as far west as like Tennessee. Um, I did Chicago, and that, but I never like went to California. Like I just kind of stayed close to New York. This time I limited it. Like I'm going to be doing Florida in February, Long Island, obviously, because I'm here. I'm having a big kickoff event on January 27th. I'm going to Boston, Philly, Austin, Texas, and Colorado. Colorado I found was like a big hot spot for runners and triathlons. So, that made sense and it, did really well the last time I went there.
Yes. I mean, and you can't miss the scenery, right?
Oh,
Like,
gorgeous.
yeah. So
Gorgeous.
cool.
My cousin was like, okay, she lives there, which makes it, helpful. And she said to me, "Oh, let's go to Iron Springs." It's like these natural hot springs there. I'm like, "Yeah, I'm in."
Yes, totally. Totally. That's awesome. So, speaking of the multi-sport lifestyle, you're going to be traveling a lot, and I'm sure there are people who travel and they're like, "Well, I can't keep up with it because I, may not have access to a pool and I'm not traveling with my bike and I may or may not have access to a bike and a hotel." So, talk about that a little bit. Like, do we fail if we're if we're not
No,
swimming
not at
for a
all.
week
There
and
are
we're off
other
a trainer?
things. There are other things. I mean, first of all, we all really need to strength train. I mean, especially as we get older. As we get older, you lose muscle mass and it's important, right? So, and maybe that's even more important sometimes than the actual endurance stuff. I mean, just to train and to, get your muscles strong. So there's usually a gym at these places, and I always, bring like a band or two with me. You can always run. And what I do sometimes is I like juggle my schedule so that I'll do like more bikes and swims before I go, and then I focus on running when I'm there. You know what I mean? So there's ways to juggle it around. I think the hardest part for people to get into the sport is to figure out their schedule and how they could fit it all in, right? For me, I learned pretty quick that getting it in the morning was the only time for me because otherwise I can't. I'm too tired in the afternoon. There's just no way after work and everything. There's just no way I could do it. Now, other people feel that they're invigorated after work and they need like an outlet just to release, and that's okay. So everybody's got their own method to this madness. For me, I just like, I'll put all my stuff out the night before so that I have it. Coffee's ready. Get my clothes on, drink my coffee, look at the social media, see if anybody sent me messages, and then I'm out the door. And I'm usually out the door at like, depending on the time of year. In the summer, I'm out the door by 4:30, 5 o'clock. In the winter, I'm out the door, a little later because of this, the sun. I mean, it's still dark when I'm out there, but it's
Yeah.
not, it's starting to get light.
Yeah.
And then I see the beautiful sunrise, and it's like, oh,
Uh,
this energy is amazing.
yes, that is such a treat, especially if 4:30 is giving anybody hives right now, like it is lovely to see that sunrise and to be rewarded with that in a way. And then I know you talked a lot about like community and groups. Are you out training with people, or are you just like one of those that I'm like I'm just doing it on my own, or is it maybe a combination?
It's a combination for me. I do have a group that I train with, and I have my running group, and then, when we go open water swimming, there's a spot. We're so blessed, really. We are so blessed living here on Long Island. There's a spot at Tobay Beach, and you got to get there before the beach opens because we all are not residents of this particular community, but we get there early, and there's always somebody to swim with. And even if you're swimming alone, you're still out there with people. It's not like you're alone. You're always with somebody. There's always somebody there. So it's nice. And, we stop at the marina, everybody's chats. We stop at the bonsai, everybody chats, so it's fun. And then cycling, sometimes I have a cycling buddy, and he's much faster than I am, so I kind of like start with him and then say, okay, we'll see you later.
Yeah, and you talk about that a lot in the book in terms of like community and friends and finding people to keep you engaged. Because, we're always thinking about, at least I'm always thinking about longevity. How can we get people moving, whether it be swim, bike, run, or just run, or strength train, or whatever? How can we get people moving and get them social? And so,
Yeah.
I know so many people are like, oh, I'm introverted. I'd rather train by myself. Well,
Mm.
let's do a fun
No,
thing together.
it definitely makes a difference. Like even with my running group, where we go very, very slow. It's more of a social group than anything. It really is. And we do the run walk. So I was trained by Jeff Galloway. He actually coached me for the New York City Marathon. And then I became a program director, and I was with that group for a while before I got my certification with Roadrunners Club. Anyway, so we do the run walk together, and we always go out this with the slowest person. So no matter what, I mean, and the funny thing is that I've got people who are running like 7-minute mile to 16-minute mile, and we all run together. Somebody said, "Oh, you run together?" Like we're gonna slow down. Yeah, it doesn't hurt you to slow down. And then after what we do is we usually go out for breakfast, and it's just a great way to like end the week and relax. And I'll tell you, I mean, I feel like my best friends are friends that I met through triathlon training and through running.
I would have to 100% agree with that. And, there are people that I met when I first started in the sport, and I still keep in touch with them, and they're like my besties. And there's just something about sharing a common value of health and wellness that just makes it work. Right? And
Absolutely.
it's like triathlon becomes your tribe. And how cool is that we have people to lean on who aren't sugarcoating anything. We're doing hard things, but also sometimes life doesn't go the way we plan, and there are injuries, and there are ups and downs, and there's things to get through, and burnout, and all that kind of stuff that those people are there to support you.
Absolutely, without a doubt. Like after, my sister had a brain aneurysm a few years ago, and it was traumatic. I mean, it was like one of these horror stories that you hear about that you can't even imagine that anybody's ever been through, right? Like she collapsed, she was in a coma for 3 weeks, and then, went into palliative care, and she passed away. So during that time, I was absolute complete mess. I mean, here's my best friend, but the people in the group really helped me to overcome this. I mean, not overcome, I'll never overcome it because I'm always thinking about her, but they helped me to get back to me. They were there for me. And that was just amazing that they were there for me, and I always like if one of my friends in the running group, her husband just had quadruple bypass surgery, and she's like very, very upset. I mean, obviously upset about that, and I've been like bugging her like every day, how you doing? Can I help you with anything? I want to be there for her. She was there for me, like that. Like that's the kind of relationships that you have with these people. And it's just so incredibly special. And it's more special than people that you've known all your life, like you get this bond with them that is very, very special.
Yes, whether it's talking about supporting you through the death of a loved one or some sort of health crisis, or on a lighter note, telling them that their bike shorts are too thin to be appropriate anymore, right? That's what I love about the communities. You've got that, but like both ends of the spectrum, right?
It's
Like
true. It's
bringing
true.
out the supportive and generous side of people, but also like, let's have a laugh every once in a while.
And believe me, there are things that, you just can't even believe happen. Just This is crazy. I was training at Hofstra. I teach there. It's a university on Long Island. I'm swimming along, and all these lifeguards are looking at me. I'm like, what is going on? Why are they looking at me? Like I'm thinking, oh, my stroke must be really good, or yeah, I don't know what's going on, right? And then I get to the to the wall, and I turn around, and I feel like there's so much water on my chest. My boob was like sticking out of my bathing suit. Couldn't understand. I couldn't understand what was going on. And here I was like, oh, of course. I'm
That
out.
you just made their day.
I'm out of here. I was like, I'm out of here. I'm not coming back for a while. Hopefully they
Oh
don't
my
remember
gosh.
me.
That's, yeah, yeah, it happens.
Crazy. Like, silly things like that.
But I bet your group got a kick out of that. Did you
Yes,
tell
they
them
did.
that? Oh my
Oh, they
goodness.
loved it.
That is so funny. Oh, the things that happen to us. That's amazing. Okay, so now we talked about the fun and the warm side of multisport, but then there's the part that maybe we don't want to talk about so much, like what happens when you get burned out. So like when we came on the call, we were talking about like, oh, I was gonna do this bike ride this morning. So talk about that a little bit
Yeah.
about how you're
It
feeling,
was.
how this season went, how you're feeling, and how is this a normal experience to have?
It actually is a normal experience to have after a long season. I mean, my season started in May, and I had about a half a dozen triathlons, and then I had two open water events. One which went from Fire Island to Bayshore. It was a 5.5-mile swim, and then I did the Mackinac Island swim, which is an 8.2-mile swim around the island of Mackinac, and it was it was a lot. Like I went from that, then I went back to a triathlon, then I got sick, like really sick, and it was like my body saying, you know what, you got to slow down. And the last couple of days, I've just been feeling like I am so tired. Yesterday I forced myself to go swimming, and I just I wasn't really swimming like I normally do. Like I was swimming much slower, and I could tell that my body was just saying no. It's no. And then today, we had a little bit of misunderstanding with the time, and I was going to go out and ride my bike. And you know what? I said, you know what? This actually worked out for the best because I didn't go out. I rested in the morning, which was really nice. I don't usually take that opportunity to do that. And yeah, I'm sure within the next week or two. I mean, I think the most important thing once it's off season is try to do something different. Try to do something different. Like I love going skiing, that's something that I just really enjoy doing, or just do something that you weren't able to do during season, maybe playing golf, or still beautiful the weather, or whatever it is that you like to do. Just go to the gym 3 times a week. You didn't get that opportunity when you were training. So
Yeah, I think that's a great tip for folks that you don't have to keep up the same level of intensity, the same level of structure that you do during season in the off season. And oftentimes that makes you come back fresher.
absolutely. And it's actually nice, like to do a race and not really have a time goal, or to go for a bike ride and not care that you're killing it on the bike.
I love oftentimes like pacing friends. Like, hey, I know you said you want to do your first 5K. Like, I'll run with you. Oh, but you're so much faster. I'm like, nah, you set the pace. I'll just talk you through it and keep you entertained. And
Absolutely.
it's so fun. It's so fun.
Yeah, it is fun.
Yeah, that's so awesome. All right, so Hilary Topper, what are 2 or 3 things that you feel like you want folks who are listening to this to walk away with, tied into whether it be your book or whatever else to get into multisport?
Yeah, well, the first thing is don't get down on yourself because you're not athletic, right? Like just start to do something, and it'll make you feel better mentally and physically. And the thing about just getting out there and doing something is that it really clears your head. And that's huge, right? So I would say that would be the start. Don't worry about your body type. Don't worry if you're overweight or underweight or old or young or whatever, just go out there and do it. And I would say the other thing is make sure if you do your first triathlon, don't be like me and buy expensive equipment. Go just borrow something. Gwen Gergensen borrowed her mother's bike, and it was like a used mountain bike she did for her first triathlon. I mean, just borrow a bike. My training buddy, he rode his bike. He borrowed a mountain bike from a friend. The seat was like half chewed off by the dog. I mean, the bike was a disaster. But yet, I'll tell you, I'm on a tri bike and he was on that mountain bike and he kicked my butt during that. I hate to admit it, but he did.
That's so
And
awesome.
hey, hell, I'm
Yeah.
like, go F yourself,
Yeah.
I'm so upset.
Oh my gosh, that's amazing. So get out there, no matter what, just start doing something. Borrow instead of buy. Anything else that you want to leave folks with to encourage them?
I don't think some people do this to try to lose weight. That's not really the right, it's not really where you're gonna, I mean, you will lose weight, but you got to watch what you eat. That's really the bottom line here. And I do have Stacy Blanket. She's a nutritionist. She gave me like a whole like training plan that's in the book. Um, and just do it. Just get out there and have fun, and don't worry about what other people think. I always find like for years I felt that way, like, oh, I'm not good enough, blah, 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 blah. No, you're good enough. You could do this. You've got this. And I guess the last thing is if I could do this, you could do this too.
So good. I love those final words. So I have a present for folks. If they buy your book, for the first 3 people to buy their book, and you send me a screenshot, I will give them a 1 month free group triathlon training. So $99 value. So send me a screenshot of that, because you guys got to get this book. This is such a great way to get your feet wet, to understand some of the more complicated language, and to just get people moving. So I believe in the book so much. I think it's great. And then hopefully we can add to the community experience if they are in the North Carolina area. If you're not, send me a screenshot anyway. I'll send you something else. So yeah, I got lots of tricks up my sleeve. So
Oh, that's wonderful. Thank you.
awesome, Hilary. Well, thank you again for coming on the Find Your Edge podcast. And how can people reach you or buy the book?
So they could buy the book, Unlocking the Triathlon, The Beginner's Guide to Competing in a Triathlon. And this book is available on Barnes and Noble. It's available on Amazon, or if you go into your local bookstore, ask for it, they can get you a copy of it. And you could reach me, I guess, on Instagram. I'm at Hilary Topper, and that's Hilary with one L. So it's Hilary Topper, Topper.
So good. Awesome. Hilary, thanks again for coming on the Find Your Edge podcast.
Thank you so much.